All right, I wanted to go over quite a few things actually. This is a 2009 Honda Pilot. This cam, this is the rear head, the one against the firewall. This cam is seized, sheared the timing belt off, and yeah, a whole bunch of disastrous stuff. This is the cam that didn't seize. And again, I've taken some flack from some of the comments about not running the 0.20 weight oil. But that's the cam lobe on the cam that didn't seize. That's an intake lobe. And here's the other intake lobe. You see that? That is wiped out bad. And so the center one, that one looks okay. Looks like it's just starting to go through the hard face. Right there on the tip, you see that discoloration? Anyway, I am having Honda car after Honda car after Honda car failure come in, and it's all oil related issues. Here's the cam follower. You can see how bad that looks on the edge of that, where my thumbnail is. That's wiped out. Here's the other one. It doesn't look too bad. That one there. But anyway, these things are having all sorts of problems, and I am convinced that it's the oil. It's way too light a weight. And also, for the guys that commented that don't think there's a difference in oil quality, there's a big difference. You need to run a good oil in your engines. So I wanted to do a little tech help here. When you're installing these heads, the valves are all backed way off. We had a broken timing belt, and I always make sure that none of the pistons are at top dead center, so we don't have a cam turned out of phase with the crank and the piston, and we end up hitting and bending a valve. So I always adjust the valves. I have them all backed way off, and I adjust them once the heads are on and the timing belt is on, which it is. It's just a bunch of wiring down there in the way because I'm trying to get it out of my way so I can adjust the valves. But it's really hard to get a feeler gauge in the back here, and it's pretty hard even in the front here. And so what I do is I check an easy one, like this one on the end isn't too bad right there, and figure out, so I zero lash the valve, and then I back it off until the right feeler gauge goes in. They say 8 thousandths on the intake, and it's like 11 to 13 on the 8 to 11 intake and 11 to 13 on the exhaust. But anyway, I back off the adjuster and I just look at where the thread, where the screwdriver slot is. So on the intakes, it's about so you zero the adjuster and then you back it off about 1/3 of a turn. In the rear, you back it off about 1/2 a turn, because it's, like I said, it's nearly impossible to get your feeler gauge in back there. So I got this thing, get a focus on it. I got this all bent, but it's not easy. So you can double check your work, but if you zero the intakes and back them off about 1/3 of a turn, and you zero the exhaust and back them off about 1/2, you're going to be pretty dialed on your valve adjustment. The other thing that I do, I have the number one cylinder at top dead center. Number one is, this is 1, 2, 3 in the back. It's 4, 5, 6 in the front, closest to the radiator. What I do, I have number one on top dead center. I adjust the valves, and then the next one you do is number 4. And it's kind of hard to know exactly how much to rotate it. So I have this little piece of welding rod, and I made a mark on it. See the little purple mark in the black line? So that's number 2, sorry. So 1, 2. So the firing order goes 1, 4, 2, 5, 3, 6. And so what I do is each one that I'm getting ready to adjust, I drop this piece of wire in. It's just a piece of welding rod, and that helps me rotate the cylinder to top dead center. And again, that's why I made the little marks. What the mark is right here. So I just rotate the cylinder. with this in there. Make sure you cut it long enough that it doesn't fall all the way in. That would be a disaster. And when the cylinder rotates up to where I can see my little purple mark and my black line, I know I'm on top dead center on that cylinder, and I'm going through it in the firing order, and so it is on the compression or power stroke, and that's where you want it to be to adjust the valves. One other thing I wanted to point out when you're adjusting Honda valves, they do not get looser, they get tighter. The valves wear into the seats and then your lash goes away, and then you start getting misfire codes because the valves are actually not quite closing all the way, and you start to lose a little bit of compression. And on these old heads, checking these, they're all too tight. Every single one of these is too tight. In fact, I almost couldn't even find, there's a tiny, tiny bit of lash in that one, but it is way too tight. When you're adjusting the valves on these, always adjust them on the loose end of good, because they're going to tighten up on you. So when you adjust these valves, it's 8 to 11 on the intakes, 8 to 11 thousandths, and it's 11 to 13 on the exhausts. Always adjust them at the loose end of good, because they will tighten up on you and you'll be doing a valve adjustment sooner. These are all too tight on these old heads. And if they're a little bit loose, these are not noisy. So even if you're just a smidge over what they should be, it's not going to be a noisy engine, and they will tighten up. As the valves sink into the head, they wear the seats. Valve stem will actually get taller and your valve lash will go away. So do not set these things on the tight end of good. Set them on the loose end of good.